Hello and welcome to ES Stars Technologies. In this session, we will be delving into UX research. Join me now. You are welcome to another session where we dive into UX research. I hope you have learned a lot from our previous classes. If you have not watched any of our previous classes, you can always check back on the older videos. I'll put the link in the description below, and then you'll be able to see some of our previous videos that you've not seen on UX research. So today we are going to be talking about analyzing your interview. At this stage, we believe that you have carried out your quantitative research, which is you sending out your surveys to know your real participants, to know your target audience, and then you have already gone ahead to invite your participants for an in-depth discussion, which is the interview session. So we believe now that you are done with the interview. If you are done with the interview, the next step is for you to start analyzing what you have written down in the interview. Now, one of the major start points that you want to consider when you are trying to analyze your data is creating your empathy map. Somebody might ask, what is empathy map? Empathy map is a technique that helps us understand and empathize with other people's experiences, thoughts, and feelings. I always ask what the difference is between empathy and sympathy. You see, empathy and sympathy are often used interchangeably, but they have distinct meanings and implications. So empathy can refer to the ability to understand and share the feelings and experiences of another person. This mostly involves putting yourself in someone else's shoes and imagining how they might be feeling. So when you empathize with someone, you strive to truly understand their perspective and their emotions. But sympathy, on the other hand, is different, and it means feeling compassion, pity, or sorrow for someone else's situation. Most of the time, you are acknowledging and you are recognizing someone else's pain or difficulty, but it doesn't necessarily mean you fully understand or share their feelings. So most of the time, sympathy is more about expressing your care and concern for someone, even if you have not personally experienced what they are going through. So I always give the example that if somebody tells me that he had an accident, I can sympathize with the person. I can care for the person. I can show my concern for the person. I can be like, oh my God, wow, that happened. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. And then, I show my care. I show my concern. I am sincerely apologetic. I am sincerely sorry for what has just happened to that person. But I'm sympathizing with the person. I'm not being empathetic because it has not happened to me. I can't put myself in that person's shoes. I don't know what the person was thinking. I don't know what the person was doing. I can only show my care. I can only show my concern for the person. But if you say that you are so hungry that your body is shaking, you are so hungry that you cannot concentrate in class, you are so hungry that you cannot even write properly, I can empathize with you because I have been in such a situation. I can easily put myself in your shoe to understand how you are feeling as at the time you are feeling what you are feeling. So empathy allows you to put yourself in someone else's shoes to gain deeper insights, to gain deeper understanding of their needs, their desires, and their challenges. Now the question is, how do we create an empathy map? For you to create a simple empathy map, we typically start by drawing a simple plus sign. We start by drawing a simple plus sign. You see what we have here, a straight line vertically and another straight line horizontally. When we are done drawing the straight lines. Those are 4 quadrants. You have just divided your space into 4 quadrants. Now, those 4 quadrants are different aspects of the person you are trying to understand. The person you are trying to understand is the person you will put at the center of your design. This person is the person you put at the center of your design. That's the person you are trying to understand, the person you are focusing on, the person that you are, the person who you just asked the interview questions. So you want to understand that person. You want to understand the person's perspective, not your own perspective, but the person's perspectives. What are the 4 quadrants of that person you want to analyze? Number 1 is the sales aspect. Now, for the sales aspect, that quadrant explores everything the person says. That quadrant expresses everything verbatim of what the person says. So when you are designing or when you are analyzing your interview, you are going to write in this first quadrant everything that the person is saying verbatim. Everything that the person is saying verbatim is what you are writing here. You are going to be writing it with different sticky notes. You see your sticky notes here. So you are going to be using different sticky notes to write out everything that the person has said. Now, for your thinks quadrants, this is your thinks quadrant here. You are going to be putting everything the person might be thinking, such as their goals, their beliefs, their concerns, their negative thoughts, and their positive thoughts. If they think something is not going to work, you are going to write it there. If they believe something is going to work, you are going to put it there as well. Now you go to what the person is doing. That's the does quadrant. Now in the does quadrant, what you are going to be writing in the does quadrant are the person's actions and behaviors. What is the person doing? How is the person behaving? How are they interacting with you? Were they comfortable when they were interacting with you? Were they smiling? Were they sitting? Were they standing? What were they doing as at the time they were talking to you? That is what you are going to be putting in the does quadrant. And this part helps you gain insights into their habits, their preferences, their patterns. So if there's someone that they were not sitting calmly, they were just everywhere, they were gesticulating, they were looking right, looking left, they were not focused on you, you will understand that their mind is probably everywhere. You can write the does quadrants covering what the person is doing as per the profession of the person. You can use the profession of the person to write the does quadrants, or you can use what the person is doing at the time you were interviewing the person to write the does quadrants. Now, for the feels quadrants, this is where you consider the person's emotion and you try to identify what the person might be feeling. Whether a positive emotion or a negative emotion. Is the person happy? Is the person sad? Is the person calm? Is the person relaxed? Is the person shy? Person excited? What were the emotions that the person was expressing as at the time you were talking to the person? So was the person excited? Was the person afraid? This is an example of an empathy map. Just these quadrants: what the person says, what the person thinks, what the person does, and what the person feels. Now you can decide to add what the person is seeing, which is talking about the person's environment. What was the person seeing when you were talking to the person? Was the person seeing a very clean environment, or was the environment so jam-packed that the person was not able to concentrate on you? Was the person seeing different bosses moving up and down? Was the person seeing people walking up and down in the office, and probably that was what was distracting the person? What was the person seeing? Then you can also add what the person was hearing. because what the person hears might also affect the interview. When you start adding what the person is seeing, what the person is hearing, you are no longer writing a simple or a traditional empathy map, because for what we have here, this is just a simple traditional empathy map. By the time you start adding what the person is seeing, what the person is hearing, you are moving further from writing a traditional empathy map. Also, you want to consider whether you want to make the empathy map a single user empathy map or an aggregated user empathy map. Now, if it is a single user empathy map, you are focusing on a single person. If you have 3 people that you interviewed, you may be designing or creating 3 empathy maps. If you have 70 people, you may be creating 70 empathy maps. That is for the single user empathy map. If you are looking at an aggregated user empathy map, you would be looking at merging people with similar traits, merging people with similar thoughts, merging people with similar patterns, similar behaviors, similar characteristics, merging them together and making them a group. So one group would represent one empathy map. It may be a group of 2 persons, it may be a group of 3 persons, 4, 5, 7, 10 persons, but that particular group, because they share the same character, they share the same traits, they were saying almost the same things when you were asking them questions, they share the same belief systems and the likes. You may want to aggregate them, you may want to summarize them, you may want to put them in one box as per group them to make one empathy map. So you may group them to make them aggregated, or you may leave them as single users. By filling out each of these quadrants with the relevant information, you are creating a comprehensive picture of the person we are trying to understand, and this empowers us to see the world from this person's perspective. This helps us to see the problem we are solving from this person's perspective. You are understanding the problem more so that you can gain insights. You might even see the solutions. You are seeing the problem, you are getting a perspective, a user perspective of the problem and the solution you are trying to solve. And this empowers you to be more compassionate towards your users. Now let's go to the affinity map. Now for affinity map is a technique used to organize and make sense of a large amount of information and idea. So let's say you are interviewing a large group of people and you are a team of designers coming together to get a solution. You may be using the affinity map so that you can organize and make sense of a large amount of data, of a large amount of information, of a large amount of ideas. This helps a group of people to collect and group related ideas or data into meaningful categories. Now, if you are making use of your affinity mapping, the first thing you want to consider is you want to gather the information first. So when you are done gathering the information, which is what we have on this segment, when you are done gathering the information, you then begin to sort them out. What looks alike, what people said that are similar, the information that carry common themes, common patterns, common connections, you begin to group them together. When you are done grouping them together, you then begin to give them their themes or their categories. You can call them themes, you can call them categories. So first we did the grouping. We first grouped all the idea that seemed alike. After grouping all the idea that seemed alike, we then started giving them their different categories, their different themes, what people were saying about them, what can we call this theme. So after doing that, you then arrange and then you refine. And by the method of arranging, you are going to be arranging them in the order of priority. If you see a particular feature or a particular category that people really complained about the most, that should be something you would want to put credence on. That should be something you want to really deal with first. So you would then begin to arrange your themes or your categories in the order of priority. Which one did people talk about the most? Which one did people say they need the most? When you begin to put them in the order of priority, you already have an insight into features prioritization. This way, you know what you want to create first and you know what you can push into your backlog. Affinity mapping is a collaborative process that can be done in a team or a group setting. You may be a group of designers or a group of researchers that would come together to carry out the affinity mapping, and it's always fun. It encourages active participation and engagement from all participants, as everyone's thoughts and ideas are considered and included. It allows for amazing visual representation of the collective information and insights, making it easier to understand complex information and find innovative solutions to most of your problems. So if you are looking at this is how our affinity diagram is. First, we got the data, then we analyzed the data, we grouped the data, gave them categories, and after giving them categories, we then listed them in the order of priority.